leadership on poverty, inequality, and climate change. To turn these demands into action, world leaders are gathering today, 25th of September, at the United Nations in New York to adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The 2030 Agenda comprises some 17 new sustainable development goals. The reason I say new development goals is because we've been so used to the MDG goals. Remember that? We said it so often. Some of them we've met, some we didn't, but it ended in 2015. And so we have to set new agenda for ourselves. And it will serve as the launch pad for action by the international community and by national governments to promote shared prosperity and well-being for all over the next 15 years. Now, that sounds like a lot for us to take down. So we need somebody to help us break everything down so we can properly understand it as Ghanaians. How does it or how would it benefit us as a people? To give us an idea on what these 17 goals are, I have with me in the studio some representatives of the UNDP. For now, I've got Louis Kugbeng. Okay, I hope I said it right. He is a monitoring and evaluation analyst with the UNDP. So, Louis, can I stick to Louis?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
All right, but can you pronounce your surname?
My name is Louis Kugbeng.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so good morning to you and thank you for coming.
Good morning.
First of all, MDG goals, how well did we do with it? And now we're looking for something else.
Thank you very much. MDG, in terms of our performance, is described as mixed because we have been successful in achieving some, and then to a large extent we haven't done well in some. For example, if you look at MDG in the area of sanitation, we haven't done very well. In the area of maternal mortality, we haven't done too well. But in some other areas, in terms of having poverty, we have done them quite well. But even in the areas that we have done well, we are sometimes overwhelmed by the issues of averages, because even in the area of poverty that we say we have done so well, if you look at the regional dimensions in terms of the three northern regions, you realize that poverty is still very endemic there. If you also look at in terms of the averages, if you disaggregate that kind of data, you realize that even in cities like Accra, we still have urban poverty and other things. Yes, so in terms of the MDGs, we have done considerably well. But again, a critical question that we may always want to ask ourselves is, well, done well as compared to the resources that we have invested over the period. Have we done a kind of analysis vis-a-vis our resources, our financial resources, our human resources? Could we have done better with those resources?
That's a question that I would want to pose to you,
we have, or
and
we have
help
done
you answer
less,
that
of those
yeah,
things.
but we have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Kojo Sedaga, who is an economics specialist, still on this subject. So stay with us. All right, joining us also on this subject is Kojo Sedaga, who is an economic specialist. So I want to welcome you to the conversation. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I think we were trying to still talk about the MDG goals, and then before we move on, but you asked a very important question, and I want you to attempt to answer.
Thank you very much. I think I do not have all the answers, because we haven't. The MDG, though, we produced a monitoring report. That monitoring report wasn't a kind of a financial performance report. Financial performance in the sense that if we were auditing our achievement of the MDG, then we would have had to do it looking at also the financial component, how much we have invested in achieving these MDG goals or not achieving them. Then that would have given us a critical sense of whether we have done very well and need to praise ourselves, or we haven't done very well. So for the fact that we haven't done that performance assessment or performance audit, but our attempt was just to look at our progress towards those achievements, then it is difficult to find answers to those things. Yes.
Okay. I was listening to a BBC report. I think it's a fact that some of the resources given to us were not channeled into the areas where they were supposed to, correct? Yes.
Well, I don't have facts to that they were not channeled to the areas. I think in Ghana, most resources that were acquired for development work were actually used for development purposes. But the effectiveness of it, you can question that. But to say they were not used for the purposes meant for, I think there are no facts to that. But there are facts that maybe the efficiency of expenditure efficiency, yes, that is an issue we can talk about.
So why don't we just carry on with the rest of the goals that we haven't been able to achieve, but now we want to set a whole new goals for ourselves?
The issue is here that when you set a goal for yourself, you need to stop and assess yourself. And over years, we've been assessing ourselves on almost annual basis and biannual basis with some special report. And we're using annual progress report as well to assess ourselves and see whether we are working and doing well. And the goal has a target date, and the target date is reached. So as you reach your target date, you need to go back and see, draw on lessons that you have learned from the things that you have done well, things that you have not done well, why you were able to do it well, why you were not able to do it well. You need to look at that and set another goal for yourself again. Because if you just continue going, then we will just be an aimless country or aimless world. That, okay, we've not finished, let's just continue. That life is not like that. You need to assess yourself and reorganize.
Yeah.
So that is especially what we are doing with the SDGs now. Yeah.
But let me just add a bit to that. So as Kojo said, it doesn't mean that we are dropping the ball on the MDGs. It doesn't mean that those MDG goals are no longer of priority to global development and our national development. No. Simply what we're saying is that we're coming up with the new set of goals that have been globally voted for. You have over 7 million people voting for the Sustainable Development Goals. And if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals and the MDG, it is more or less, it is taking on board those areas that especially we haven't done well, and then we'll move forward. What will be important for nation states or countries, in the case of Ghana, for example, is that, well, we look at the MDGs, those that we didn't do well, we look at the SDG and see how do we better prioritize in terms of our development approach. So those are the things that should be tickling our minds as development partners.
But do we all have the same needs as a people in terms of the world?
No, we don't have same needs as people of the world. Each country has its own peculiarity, and that is the more reason why during the MDGs we try to implement or monitor certain targets that we think are relevant to us. It's the same way that was going to happen with the SDGs as well, that we will want to implement those areas that concern us. There is one goal that concerns countries of landlocked countries, and Ghana is not a landlocked country, so therefore we will not be considering those areas. And also we will also look at the 169 targets that we have and see which ones are peculiar to our situations and try to monitor them and work on them. And that is it. And to also maybe add to what Louis said, is that the SDGs, actually, there are some targets in the MDGs. They are now goals in the SDGs. So that should tell you...
What's the difference? Targets and goals?
From goal is the bigger one, and then the targets are the smaller, like specific ones you want to... So you have a goal, for example, on poverty. Then within the poverty, you have targets on employment, target on population, GDP to employment ratio. So those are targets, so they are more specific. And then when you come to the SDGs now, some of these goals, some of these targets are actually goals by themselves, meaning they will be looked upon, they will be looked at very critically than it used to be. Okay. So that is how the MDG dovetails into the SDG.
Let me ask you, you know, maybe a question that an ordinary person will probably be thinking about. We know the needs in Ghana. We know what the problems are. Why do we have to go to New York and sit down with other leaders to agree on what the goals or targets for the next 15 years should be? Maybe Louise can start this.
Okay, thank you so much. Ghana is not an Iceland. Ghana is part of the global world. And if you look at the way the SDGs were crafted, they were crafted right from country level participation. So in the case of Ghana, you've had a strong participation of Ghana or representation of Ghana in the development discourse right to the formulation and today that they are going to adapt these development goals. So yes, we know our priority and in trying to make sure that these goals become voted for, Ghana had to ensure that our development priorities in the area of poverty and all those things are also part of these larger goals that we have crafted. So if you look at the sustainable development goals as they stand and sit back and think of Ghana, what are our development challenges? You realize that they encompass us or they cut across these 17 goals that we are talking about. What again now would be important for us is as we come back and as we prepare our national budgets on annual basis and as we begin to craft our 40-year development plan, how do we ensure that we better prioritize these 17 goals? Because as Kojo indicated earlier, not all the 17 goals are of priority to Ghana. Yes, so we need to ensure that our resources are better allocated to those development goals that are more of concern to Ghana than other countries. But like I said, Ghana is not an Iceland, and we have to be part of the global development discourse.
Right. So please help us understand those 17 goals, because we've been saying 17 goals, 17 goals.
Okay. The 17 goals, the first one is on extreme poverty, to having extreme poverty. I think the second is on, the second goal is on food security.
Okay.
And
even before you go on, with poverty, we had it in the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals.
Yes.
How well were we able to do as a country, Ghana?
On the MDGs?
Yeah.
The MDGs, in actual fact, the results were mixed.
And I'm talking about poverty to be specific.
Poverty was halved long before the 2015 target.
But that was the target, to halve it.
To halve it, yeah.
Okay.
But by 20, there is, when we were using the old Living Standard Survey result, because that one, the poverty level, the cutoff point was lower. By 2010, the poverty was halved. But when we use the current one, that the current one actually by 2013, poverty was halved.
When we say poverty is halved, what do we mean?
What we mean is that the number of people who are poor by 1990, and the target is that they must be halved by 2015. So if you have 10,000 people who are poor, by 2015 they should be 5,000.
Who is a poor person?
A poor person is a person who lives below the minimum national income average. If you are below that, you are poor. But that is an income, if you're using the income poverty indicator. But there are other poverty indicators that you can use to determine whether somebody is poor or not. And that we call it a multidimensional poverty index. You can use that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned poverty. You said extreme poverty.
Yes, extreme poverty is the first. And the second is food security. The third is on health, and the fourth is on equitable education and non-life learning, and the fifth is on gender equality. The sixth is on environmental sustainability. The seventh is on the availability of sustainable and modern energy, and the eighth is to promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable growth, economic growth.
I'm sure this is a lot, 17. I asked for it, but now I'm thinking that maybe we should just hit on some of the key areas.
Yes.
I'm interested in the energy bit, but before that, we have a 40-year development plan.
Yes.
This is a beautiful plan. Why don't we just pick this as a country and just run with it?
Yeah, it is a beautiful plan, but you cannot call this a plan for now. It's just a goal. It's just they tell you that, okay, we want to be this at this year. But the plan weaves around.
So why don't we adopt this?
Definitely.
Because you see, otherwise, then wouldn't it be different plans?
No.
There is a world plan.
Yes.
Which there are a lot of things that we can identify in it as a country.
Yes.
So I'm saying that why don't we pick these pointers, these goals? I mean, instead of sitting down and planning a whole 40-year development plan on, I'm sure, some of these same things, why don't we just use this as a guide and then develop it?
Yes, certainly this will be mainstream into the main our development plan. What is required of every country is to localize the SDGs.
Let me ask my question this way. How did we implement the MDGs?
We implement the MDGs through our national plan or our national development framework. That's how we implement it. So as you have the goals, you must be able to localize them through your own national agenda.
So we were able to do it with the MDGs, correct?
Yes, correct.
So why do we need a national development, plan now? I'm taking you to another area, but I still think it's a bit connected. I just want to see how we can work together.
If I'll intervene in a bit. Now, you realize that a lot more people in Ghana often said that the medium-term development plans are too short, right? That we have 4 years, and within 4 years, what exactly can you achieve with 4 years, right? So there have been much agitations or concern that if we have development plans that are quite longer term, then it becomes possible for you to better allocate your resources and better prioritize your development and be more focused in terms of what you want to do. So indeed, the march or the move to have a long-term development plan, 40-year development plan, you would have heard that a lot of people say it is long overdue. That means it's something we should have had.
But there are other people who say 40 is too much.
Well, whether it's too much or too short it's a debate that we can engage in. But if you look at a lot of countries that have become successful, it's only because they have had long-term plans that have guided their development march. If you talk of the Malaysias and all those things. So Ghana, I don't really expect that our long-term development plan that we are coming to craft or to produce will be parallel to these things. The wording or the words may not be exactly as they are used here, but I'm sure that whatever we identify as our development priorities for the next 40 years are things that will encapsulate these things. They will be talking about gender equality, they'll be talking about poverty, they'll be talking about energy, they'll be talking about climate change and all those things. So yes, I don't expect that it will be anything too different from the priorities that are set here. Of course, there are some of them, like we talk of the oceans. That's a goal in an ocean that is a global goal, which might not be of priority to Ghana. But the rest of them, I'm sure, will be captured by our long-term development plan.
I'm just worried that we'll be doing the same things, just replicating, if you like. That's my worry.
No, not necessarily so. A development plan is very key for every country's development. Louis just mentioned that we had medium-term frameworks. And those medium-term frameworks, for every 4 years, we have to prepare another. But so it is in a way rolling of a plan. So why not to have a long-term plan and you begin to roll them either on a 4-year basis or on a 5-year basis. Then you begin to roll them. That when one is not finished, you see that it helps you to learn as you go along and implement. What it does also is that it helps you to see yourself 40 years to come, this is what we want to be. So then you begin to move towards it. Then looking at it, when you finish one in 4 years, then you are thinking of, oh, what do I do again? Should I continue with the old ones? But now you have 40 years. So you know what to do for the next 40 years. So it helps you in plan, it helps you in budget allocation. Mind you, Ghana and most all other countries are now doing medium-term expenditure framework. So that also helps you to be able to plan for the next 3 to 4 years then you know how your expenditure pattern will be as a budget. Then you are allocating the resources accordingly.
So these sustainable development goals, how do we fund them?
The sustainable development goals, how we're going to fund them is an issue. So we had a discussion in Addis Ababa in July to see how best we can fund these development goals. Over time, we realized that ODA is dwindling. That is official development assistance that we receive from our development partners is dwindling. So therefore, to fund it, one, we need to look at our internal resources to see how best we generate resources internally to fund it. Two, there are other new innovations of funding projects, such as PPP, public-private partnership. We need to look at it and see how best we can tap into that area to fund the implementation of the SDGs. Another area that is coming up strongly is the philanthropy area, which there are a lot of resources out there that we can also need to tap into. There is one also we call the carbon financing, that as you save there are resources for that, for you to improve upon your environmental issues that is there. And you know, one thing that we've come to also realize is that globally we save about 22 trillion US dollars every year. That's why we
save. Like, where is it?
The savings globally. So meaning there is money somewhere doing nothing. It's savings.
So how do we tap it?
Yeah, so
and I'm looking at the Ghana situation.
So how do we tap into it?
Are we not going to adopt these goals and then funding will be a problem? Because I'm not speaking doom, but funding is especially when we don't have anybody that is directly going to give us the monies to implement these. I'm seeing that as a problem. If we talk about philanthropy, for instance, those also come with conditions that we may not necessarily want to go by.
Okay, but basically, I think it is time, Ghana growing, to look inward and see how we generate resources than asking ourselves who will give us the money. We are adults, for God's sake, for now, and we should be able to take care of ourselves. We have graduated to a middle-income country.
I do, but so that's just like a name tag that they put on our country. We need the support, like when we were in the HIPC status. We need it, and if we had it today, I'm sure we'd all be singing praises.
I think even the word HIPC, the IMF himself withdrew that word from their nomenclature, that it is not a proper word to use. They withdrew it. So
but I guess you understand what I mean.
Yeah,
I'm saying that we are rated as a middle-income country,
right,
but the kind of support we need now is not that of the middle income, unless I am wrong.
No, the support you need is this. As a middle-income country, you need more. You need to do more than when you are a least developed country. That is a fact.
Louis, so generating funds internally is a major problem.
There are resources. Maybe we need to streamline our internal revenue generation activities and be able to do.
And I think that talking about how do we fund these things, first we have to agree as Ghanaians that these goals are locally owned, that development is our responsibility, it's not development partners' responsibility. Development partners may guide us, may provide us guidance, may share experiences with us, but we shouldn't expect anybody to come and hold our hands and develop Ghana for us. So it is our responsibility to develop. So once we've agreed that it is our responsibility, we have to look at how do we fund that. Yes, we may want to rely on some external donors, some external partners to support us in one way or the other. But let's sit back and ask ourselves, are we efficient with the little that we are able to generate?
What's your answer?
Are we efficient?
What's your answer to that?
I don't have the best answers.
You're an analyst.
Yes,
you know
I am
what's
an analyst.
happening.
And if you listen to a lot of discourse in air and in other places, there are issues of not prioritizing our resources. I mean, not spending wisely, not spending efficiently on our resources. So probably if we tend to become more efficient in how we allocate our resources, making sure that our priorities are first met, then we will not be talking too much about...
So two things, quick answers to that. How did we fund the MDG goals?
How did we find them?
Yes.
We found them through many means, as I mentioned earlier. Through donor funding, though it's dwindling, but some still come in. We fund it through our own internally generated resources, as well as borrowing.
Okay, as well as borrowing.
And there is a PPP component as well.
So are we saying that we're going for this meeting that's happening today, and we have not agreed as to how we're going to raise the monies to carry out these goals?
I think I did say earlier that we met the world met in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, to agree how this will be funded. And every country, it was negotiated.
But has Ghana agreed?
Yeah, Ghana agreed.
Because our means of resources are different.
Yes, Ghana agreed to what they will be using to finance these development goals. Every country agreed to.
Okay, so is that what you've said?
That's
what are we
said.
using? We're borrowing again?
As for borrowing, every country borrows.
So we're borrowing one.
We will borrow. We will generate more tax revenue. We will generate more.
Can you stop there? Did you go into the how?
The how
generates more tax revenue. How are we going to do that?
One is to strengthen the tax administration by ensuring that taxes that are collected more efficiently and equitably. We need to do that. Broaden the tax base. We need to do that.
Isn't this like a tune we've been singing for such a long time?
It is a tune, but it must be done.
We haven't gone down to do it.
The truth of the matter is there is nothing new under the sun. So we know it, we must do it. That is what I think. We know it, we must do it.
Okay.
Right. So we tax revenue. What did I mention again? Borrow tax revenue. We will also look for
private partnership.
Private partnership. Yeah. We will also look for philanthropies. We will still look to the development partners for resources. And there are all other.
So essentially, we will still be going around begging and asking people to support us.
I would not call it begging. I think during the negotiation, some countries indicated that they will want to support the others, and more countries that agree most are called the BRICS country. They want to support. They are from the south. They want to support most of the southern countries as well to develop.
Luis, you want to say something?
Yes, but I just wanted to bear in mind that probably we are emphasizing too much on financial support. But support could also come in other forms. Yeah. For example, expert advice, technology. So yes, there are some of the goals that we may not be asking for financial support, but we may be asking for some technical or technological support in those areas. So I think that. So like Ojo said, we just need to be more efficient in how we generate our resources.
Are you telling the right people to be efficient?
Yes.
The people who necessarily must be efficient?
Yes, we are telling everybody to be efficient. We are telling the state to be efficient, and we tell other partners to be efficient. And I think even in your business operation here, your management tries as much as possible to be efficient. And the little resources that you have, you must be able to use it efficiently so that you derive the most benefit out of it.
But you would agree that these goals are heavily on the shoulders of the country, of the states?
That is a misconception. It is heavily on the shoulder of every Ghanaian.
Oh, how?
Yes. How? To reduce hunger, state doesn't reduce your hunger necessarily. You work to reduce your own hunger. So that is why we need to advocate for these SDGs. So for you to make it, you must start to make something for the state to help you.
But the state doesn't have to have a conducive atmosphere. They don't play any parts. Do you work on it yourself?
They do provide a conducive environment. Granted that the state provided all the conducive environment and you did not take advantage of it. Is it the state's fault or your fault? It is certainly your fault, right? So that is why I said it's on the shoulder of everybody. If you want to go that this is my land, it has a vegetation on it, and you go cutting all the trees and destroying it, is that a state's action?
How about food security?
The food security state should definitely provide an environment for you to be able to have food, sufficient food. And to have a sufficient food, it starts with an individual affair. That, okay, I am a farmer. So how do I cultivate that I take advantage of the current Ghana commodity exchange that is going to be established? How do I take advantage of it? Government will make it available to you. you take advantage of it. And I think that is what the private sector does better than the individual, the civil society. The private sector comes into a country and you think that there is nothing in that country. But they come and they say, no, there are resources here we can use. And they use it and develop. And it comes to the benefit of the state or of the country. That, oh, Ghana is a cocoa producing country. But this cocoa is not produced by state, it's produced by individuals. So they take it that, look, I must produce this because the state provided certain environment for me. Let me take advantage of it and produce the cocoa and produce it more and more and earn more. And so first, you are thinking about yourself, let me earn more and have a better life for my kids and myself. And therefore, you must produce.
Okay. So, Louis, help us understand what's going to happen today in New York.
So today in New York, we have about 65 countries that are rallying around to vote for the adoption of these SDGs. So there will be a flag raising ceremony, and there will be some solidarity messages across the globe. And once that adoption is done, then this now becomes the global development goals that will guide whatever most of the nations will be doing from now up to 2030. So that is what is going to. So Ghana has a representation there. There's a delegation from Ghana.
Do we know who they are? Are they from the
Well, I'll mention the
Planning
institutions.
Commission,
I'll mention the
instance?
institutions. You have NDPC, you have the Minister of Finance that is also representing. So, and the Environmental Protection Agency. Yes. So
Okay.
Ghana is, you have a high-powered delegation from Ghana that is participating.
Because we want the Planning Commission
The
people
planning
there
is
to be there.
They are there. Yes.
Okay, and let me just run this by you, that the UNDP, Multi-TV and Joy FM is today also presenting the Social Good Summit. The Social Good Summit is about people improving lives and ensuring we have a world where there is justice and no poverty. So you can join the conversation via the hashtag 2030now, 2030 now. The Social Good Summit will come off at the Elisa Hotel today at 9:30 a.m. to midday, and we're carrying that live here on TV. It will also be live on Joy FM. It's going to be live on Adom TV and Adom FM, Asempa FM as well. So the Social Good Summit, new goal, new power, new technology, is powered by the Multimedia Group. 20 years of changing lives. We're doing this with you.
Yes.
What are the expectations?
Yes.
The other support. Okay.
The expectations from today is that we want to drum out or drum down the message that the SDGs have come to stay, or yes, and there will be the new development priorities that we should be focusing on. We want to create, basically today is to create the awareness, to let people know that we have these 17 goals that are coming into play. So from all our development sectors, our development planning processes, that whatever we are doing in terms of planning, we should anchor it to one or two of these development goals. We should let one of these things guide. So for example, like Kojo said, at a private entity level like Joy FM, how will you ensure that in whatever you do, you take into consideration these development priorities, gender empowerment or gender equality, poverty, and all those things? How do you ensure that you give back to the community, you give back to the society once you take something from the society? So it is just to create the awareness and let every Ghanaian and the globe, everybody in the world know that yes, the Sustainable Development Goals have come to stay.
Okay. Afogojo, we'll see you at the Elisa Hotel.
Sure, I will be there.
All right. I want to say thank you for your time. I'm grateful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
All right. So there will be more on this later on this morning at 9:30. Remember, we're carrying that live. I have to make way now for Roland Walker, but a sweet boy is celebrating his birthday today. It's a very special 7th birthday. Young Emmanuel Kofi Doni, and there's a lovely message. Let me try and read all. I thank God for your life, provision, and abundant protection and mercies. It's my prayer that you grow to become a wonderful child and fulfill your God-given destiny. Above all, I ask that God's grace will be sufficient upon you and grant you divine wisdom so you can realize your dream and ambition of becoming a pilot in future. That is a prayer from an amazing mother, Christiana Pambo, to you, Emmanuel Kofi Doni, as you celebrate your birthday today. Love and kisses from your siblings as well, Naomi, Cephas, Amma, Melissa, Mami, and Mefia. They sing they love you and enjoy your day. Niyama Konfra and Kwabena Mental Kando, our guest on AM Talk. Please stay with us.